Good evening, everyone. Welcome to, in addition to today's business plan final, we have something else prepared for you. Super interesting presentation, and it was all over the news in the Formula student community. Over the recent years, there was like a big, I don't know if battle is the right word, but at least a competition ongoing for who can set the fastest time ever in a Formula student electric vehicle. The fastest time to reach from 0 to 100. And today we have a presentation from the team who actually managed as the first to score a sub 1 second 0 to 100 time, which is, in my opinion, totally amazing and just shows you Formula student cars taken to the next level of performance. So please, everyone, welcome with me Eloy, Lucas, and Ben from AMZ Zurich here on stage.
In 2016, we broke the 0 to 100 record and kept it for 6 years at 1.513 seconds. In 2022, the Green Team from Stuttgart tried to get the title back and successfully regained it. Now, it's time to get it back. This is the story of how we turned Mythen into our new world record contender.
Good evening, everyone. In the name of AMZ Racing and our universities, ETH Zurich and the UAS Lucerne, we would like to welcome you to our presentation. First, we would like to thank Formula Student Germany for letting us come here and celebrate the 20th anniversary of this competition. This is a competition that obviously is very important to us and to all the teams. But today we would like to talk about a different kind of competition. Every summer, we come here, we race with the cars that we have been building all year round. But this competition, you do it at home. There's no starting line, you just decide, this is our time, it's our time to start. So you put together a team and start the journey. You don't know where it will end and where it will bring you, but you go for it. My name is Eloy, and together with Ben and Lucas, today we'll tell you the story of the 1 second car. But first, let's take a look at the history.
Well, thank you very much, Eloy. If we're talking about world record acceleration, of course, it's very important to also look at what has been done in the past. The world record of acceleration for electric cars is actually not that old. Electric cars, as you might remember, have really started to gain in popularity around the year 2010. And really in line with that, and also funnily enough, when Formula Student Germany introduced the electric category, in 2011, the first real world record was set by, at that point in time, still a very unknown company that can't be said today anymore. But Rimac transformed a BMW M3. They put in a custom electric powertrain, and their EM3 was able to run the world record acceleration in around 3.3 seconds at that point in time. But until now, that should be the last time that the record was set outside of Formula Student. 1 year later, in 2012, our friends from Stuttgart, Greenteam, broke the 3 second barrier for the first time with their E2, setting a time of 2.618 seconds. And this was also notably the last time the record was set by a two-wheel drive car. It was really difficult for them at the beginning to certify the record because it was the first time it was set in the Formula Student community, and Guinness didn't really know how to certify the records, how to measure them. So they said, well, just contact the local athletics team and have them set up some light barriers, run through those and break the record that way. Of course, as we all know, light barriers are not really a way of measuring acceleration times. So it took them quite some convincing to be able to say, okay, we have this electronics box that is very precise. It can measure our acceleration times. We can use it. Guinness said, okay. Well, the downside of that was it weighed over 10 kilograms, and they had to put it outside of their chassis on the back. You will see that in the video in a second. And those 10 kilograms definitely also had an impact on their time, as I can say from experience. Well, it advanced quite rapidly. Just 1 year later, the record went to Delft. Our colleagues from FS Team Delft set a record with their .12 car, which was notably the first four-wheel drive car, and set a time of 2.134 seconds. Same as Greenteam, they also faced some problems. I think any record has those. And the weather really didn't want to play ball with them when they want to run their times. So they had a very pragmatic solution. Well, it was raining, but industrial heating fans can dry the tarmac quite rapidly. So they just went ahead, as you can see, used an industrial heating fan, dried the track, ran the time, got the world record.
So it was 2014 when AMZ first attempted the world record for the fastest accelerating vehicle with their car Grimsel, named after a Swiss mountain pass in Switzerland. It was also the first time a car stood below the 2-second barrier with a time of 1.785 seconds. For those who paid attention, Grimsel is also competing here at FS Germany in the Alumni Cup. But Greenteam had no mercy on us Swiss. With their new car E5, they beat our time with a thin margin just by 0.006 of a second, just 1 year later, which was enough to secure themselves a spot in the book of Guinness World Records. History repeats itself, and again, 1 year later, AMZ strikes back. With Grimsel, the same car and some tuning, additionally to some tire blankets gifted by Sauber Motorsports, they claim again their title for the fastest accelerating electric vehicle, with a new time of 1.513 seconds. But what they didn't know then, this record was meant to stay for almost half a decade. September 2022. News from Stuttgart arrive in Switzerland. Again, Greenteam with their new car E11 Evo, they break our record and accelerates from 0 to 100 in 1.461 seconds. At this place, also thank you to Greenteam for bringing their car here on stage. Again, a fine margin, but world records, they don't care about margins. It is the third record for Stuttgart. Well, there were a lot of records and time within about 11 years. But in that summer, Greenteam not only set a new world record, they also set a new challenge for some motivated students located in Zurich, Switzerland. And this, dear guests, is where our story of today begins.
Well, I want to put you back in September 2022. Greenteam had just broken our long-standing road record of 6 years, and some alumni of AMZ Racing came together and decided, well, we should try and break it and bring it back to Zurich. Of course, beating a time of 1.461 seconds is not an easy task. I mean, you really need to see what time you want to set, or arguably actually the first question you need to ask yourself is, which car are we going to use? We had several options, of course. The first one was, we could reuse Grimsel. I mean, the car had already broken the world record twice. It was quite light, but on the other side, Grimsel was starting to show her age. Grimsel was, at that point in time, I think 8 years old already, and a lot of systems would have needed to be rebuilt just to be able to run again. On top of this, the motors that Grimsel was using were not really compatible with our new motor design any longer, so getting more power was actually quite difficult. Well, we had a second option. Mythen, our 2019 car, was no longer running. And on top of that, it was our lightest chassis ever, so that was definitely a benefit. As we needed to rebuild the whole car basically from scratch, that wasn't the problem, that the car was no longer running, and the motors were compatible. So that was really what drove our decision in the end to use Mythen as our contender for the 2023 world record. Car is one thing, goal is the other one. And relatively at the beginning we said, okay, let's try for 1.2, 1.3 second time. That should definitely be doable. That was not based on simulation, it was really the outset goal we started before the whole project started in itself. And it was more of an educated guess based on, yeah, sounds about right, we could do that. Well, where does an engineering project start? As with most today, it is in simulation. We had to see, okay, what do we need as in our performance? And we really developed a new simulation environment just for this, because otherwise we couldn't really see what concept would work, which wouldn't. For this, we went really very simple. In the end, first principles physics still work. Force equals mass times acceleration. So if you want to increase your acceleration, either you increase your force or you reduce your weight. Reducing weight, pretty straightforward. I mean, you can try doing that everywhere, but increasing force is really where the question starts. How do you do that? Well, increasing force in a car actually means increasing torque. How much torque do we actually need to run the times that we want to? Coming up on the torque number, we then needed to say, okay, how do we actually provide that electrical power? I mean, we're talking considerably more power than in a normal Formula Student car, so our drivetrain needed to change. Having so much torque doesn't work if you don't have the grip. So how do we increase the grip to a level where we can actually get that torque to the ground? And lastly, well, these forces are quite substantial at this point in time. Does our car still hold? Which components do we need to change so that we can run the record? So where did we start? Well, this was Mythen 1.0. This was our 2019 car. But as you can see, it doesn't really look like the car that we ran the world record with. So which parts did we actually keep? Or better, what did we remove? First of all, aerodynamics, they were gone. Wings work at higher speeds, but we actually needed most downforce at standstill. So we really need to come up with a concept to produce that downforce from 0 to 100 kph. Secondly, as I already mentioned, the drivetrain, we needed considerably more torque. Not happening with the one that was currently in the car. Drivetrain was out. Next, tires and suspension. Well, as I mentioned already, the force would probably be bigger, so we need to have a look at if we could use the suspension members, and also the tires, they would need to be much stickier. So those were out as well. And lastly, while we added electronics and wires, gone. We're building a new car, we need new components for this as well, so might as well take it out, build it from new. So where did we start? We had a blank chassis. Let's have a look at the individual components that we really developed. Well, first of all, as I mentioned already a few times, we need way more torque. What does that mean? We roughly doubled it. Starting with our 10th generation motor M10, which you can see on your left-hand side, we redesigned it, doubled its active length. By that, roughly doubled its power and its torque to 40 Newton meters and 80 kilowatts, respectively, still at 28,000 RPM. And we built the behemoth that we call M10 Max, which you can see is considerably larger on the right-hand side. And also in the car, it is very different. It sticks out past our wheel hubs. Usually, our motors sit very flush with them. So it really shows the increasing in length and also in power that motor packs. Well, 80 kilowatts of motors, they need to be driven. No inverter used in Formula Student, at least in an AMZ car before, would be able to run that power. So we went ahead, designed our own inverter, which is able to drive 4 motors at 80 kilowatts, perfect for what we need. And lastly, where does the energy come from? Well, a battery was needed that was lightweight, but which was arguably more important for us as well, able to produce the performance. And that's actually where the battery is slightly counterintuitive. This is quite heavy still. It weighs 20 kilograms at 2 kilowatt hours, purely because we needed to reduce the voltage drop. The voltage drop would just be too immense if we reduced the battery even further. So it was actually, that was our design constraint, minimizing our voltage drop rather than minimizing energy that we take with us and thus weight. In terms of our aerodynamics, I mean, that was probably one of the most mediatized elements of Mythen. We went with a radically new concept, a powered ground effect car, creating a low pressure zone underneath the car with a big plate to obtain a static downforce, increasing the traction without increasing drag in a massive amount. Of course, as we had never run something like this, we started with prototypes. The first ones looked very, very crude. This was a laser cut MDF plate. We completely gutted out a kitchen scale, mounted it to it, and by this means we're able to measure the downforce created by the fan in the middle, dragging it over our shop floor and just proving that the concept actually could work with these sliding skirts. The prototypes were developed, and finally the plate that gives Mythen its unmistakable look today was mounted on the car with 2 fans, creating over 200 kilograms of downforce for our runs. Next, well, as I mentioned before, we needed to check all our elements. This was the chassis, these were the uprights, this was the suspension. Thankfully for us, our uprights and chassis were able to cope with the massive forces that such a quick acceleration would produce. However, our suspension members, they were not capable of resisting them, so we built a whole new set of suspension members for the car. And of course, the tires play a very big role. We needed to use a lot of tire softeners on the wheels just to get them to a state where they are so grippy that they can put the traction onto the ground. And these are really the main concepts that we used in Mythen to be able to run at world record pace.
So, how do we do a world record? Guinness World Records is the organization that is de facto the official, or let's say recognized by everyone, entity that certifies who has which record at a given point in time. For all the existing records, it's as simple as just breaking the current mark. So you have to apply and then get the regulations. This is quite complicated because from the point when you start, it's going to take 3 months for the regulation to arrive. So you have to work a bit in the dark until this happens. Luckily for us, we didn't have to convince them of many new things because our friends from Greenteam, when they started their journey, they already set a standard. So that's basically what we're doing nowadays with this. So after 12 weeks, this is pretty much what you get. The rules are pretty simple. It just says break the record with an electric car. Just don't do anything crazy, like putting a rocket on it. But very important, don't forget to film it. And that's why we have such a long list of evidence. That's a lot of documentation, videos, pictures, and different certificates that you have to provide to really show that you did the world record. The guide that describes all these things is 30 pages long, so it kind of emphasizes how important it is to really make it clear that you've done the record. On the technical aspects, as I said, it's very simple. It has to be an electrically powered car and carry its own battery, right? It cannot go with a cable dangling from the back. It can also not be a cart or an electric commercial vehicle, because those have their own category, which anyway, they are slower, so they're not in our league, let's say. Then comes the part of the track. The track's quite important because it has to be flat. So by default, you have to find a piece of tarmac that is completely flat, and you have to bring a ground surveyor that really certifies that the track is completely smooth and even. And to make sure that you don't get any advantage from it anyway, you have to run consecutively 2 runs in opposite directions. But there is an alternative option that they offer you, which is find a track that goes uphill. Obviously, they don't want to do too much. And then you have to run uphill, which in this case, you only have to do it once. And we chose this option for 2 reasons. First, if you have to run twice, you have to have a safety run of area on both sides, which makes the choice of a track way more difficult because you need basically a quarter of a kilometer of open field and with proper quality of asphalt, which is quite difficult to find in Switzerland. And on the other side, it removes uncertainty. If you're going to have technical problems, which honestly we didn't know how many we would have, running 2 successful drives in a row could potentially be difficult. So we went for running uphill. That's why on our videos you only see 1 run. On the other side, you have to measure with a speed sensor. That's basically how you certify that at the time that you started at 0 kilometers per hour and the time that you reach 100 kilometers per hour. As you can imagine, this kind of sensor needs a lot of precision and needs a lot of frequency to really measure the milliseconds that it takes you from one point to the other. And if you're familiar with this kind of sensors, you can imagine that first, it's very expensive, and second, it's difficult to come across one because there's waiting lists for delivery. And at some point in our project, we got a bit stuck because we couldn't have a sensor to work with. So our friends from Too Fast lent us one, which we appreciated very much. First, because we could progress with the development of the car, and on the other side, because they agreed to keep the project secret until we really got the record. So that was very nice. Then comes the whole topic of the certification. How do you organize yourself? You basically need a second team just putting together all these requirements. First, obviously, the cameras. You need to show on camera everything that you're doing, how you're doing, full proper angle of the whole drive, how it happens, and also all the procedures, especially the data extraction, to really show this run had this data. You also have to bring a lot of experts there on site on the day that you're doing this that certify all the different things. So you need a ground surveyor for the track. You need a delegate from the company that manufactures the speed sensors. That's going to be the person really saying which time you're getting. You can't do the reading yourself. And you also need a national testing agency representative to be there. And on top of that, you need independent witnesses that are going to testify that you're doing all these procedures correctly. So as you can imagine, it's quite a big ordeal to put all these things together and to organize it all to come and work perfectly on the same day. So that's why you set a target attempt date and hope that the car comes together, all the people that you're invited come together, and that everything works.
Well, so how do you actually prepare the car? Because that is ultimately the most important thing in that day. First of all, as you can see, cleaning the track. Use every imaginable way of cleaning the track and then just repeat. Brooms, industrial hoovers, leaf blowers, just use it. If you think it's clean, do it again and again and again and again. The cleaner your track will be, the better your times. It is as easy as that. Every single grain of dust will just make your wheel slip, and a slipping wheel has less performance. The second important step for us was to charge all the batteries, because on one side, our low voltage systems, they were really dimensioned to minimal weight. They last for one run. The high voltage system, as I said before, was optimized for minimal voltage drop, but of course minimal voltage drop also means you want to start at the highest possible voltage, so recharge it every run so you have the biggest margin there. Next bit of it was heat up the tires. For us that meant heat up the tires in an oven actually. We had a resin curing oven that we can really precisely control, and at 80 degrees Celsius the tires get really sticky. So you put in your tires for several hours into that oven until the core of every tire and of the rim reaches 80 degrees. When you're ready to run, you quickly take them out, wrap them in tire heating blankets so that they definitely don't cool down, put them on the car, and you're ready on that side. The last bit, And that is also a little bit counterintuitive at first, is you need to heat up your battery. I know in endurance here in FSG or in Formula Student generally, you're really always concerned about battery temperature, that you don't go over the 60 degrees. We're talking heating up to 40 degrees, so still very safe. But for lithium polymer acus, it is really at 40 degrees Celsius where the cells on their chemistry level reach the minimum internal resistance. Minimum internal resistance means maximum power, minimum voltage drop. So what do? You put your battery in an oven, really precisely control at 40 degrees, let it heat soak for a few hours, and your battery is ready. All of these things together get your car ready. So you put everything on there, you get your driver in, and then the driver has to go through a whole procedure as well to get the car ready to run. Of course, I could talk you through that procedure, but I think a first-hand experience is much better. So I'll give the word to Chiara, one of our drivers, to tell you how she started up the car and ran the world record.
Absolutely difficult to describe because it's only a second. It's a really surreal experience because you don't really believe it just happened. You go into acceleration mode, roll to the start, initiate power ground effect, which will suck you to the floor.
PG active.
Both hands active.
Yeah. Oh boy, okay.
You will have to pull on the buttons behind the steering wheel and then push throttle. And then when you release, there is a split second where nothing happens, but then you will get launched.
Flat throttle. Holy! What?
After you have reached 100 km/h, the car will shut down.
What?
And then you can slowly go on the brakes.
Thank you, Eloy. Thank you, Ben, for all those details. In the last video, you saw an already running car, but how did we got from the theory, from all those concepts to that? So, and how did we fulfill all the requirements from Guinness? Let's dive deeper into the last days leading up to a very special Friday, September 1st, 2023 in Zurich, Switzerland. July 23rd, 40 days to go to our self-imposed date for the attempt. It is shakedown. So Mythen just stood about 4 years in storage or at exhibitions, and for the first time it's running again. running again. A brand new inverter, battery, the whole powertrain has been replaced, new suspension and aerodynamic concept. Every single wire has been ripped out and has been replaced. I think each one of you who already built a race car knows exactly how important this moment and what big of a milestone this was in our project, our mission world record, even though it have not been world record pace back then. The day after, with the motivation from yesterday's shakedown, we could have moved mountains or deploy our newest generation of motors, the M10 Max. 2 of those assembly will soon replace the motors on the rear axle of Mythen, giving it a total theoretical power of 240 kilowatts, which is about 320 horsepower. About 1 week later, but still 1 month to go, not everything always works as planned. But we haven't had a big setback so far. Every one of us is working in their field of expertise and beyond. Teamwork makes the dream work, right? So most of the mistakes we have already done in our previous years at AMZ, we grew as engineers, and now we build cars. Engineers being engineers, probably a world record in pizza and fries orders. However, a big contender was also the active project of Gastor, the AMZ 2023 project. I see some of them sitting there behind. Also, I'll never forget all the days and nights spending in the workshop together with them, sharing some knowledge with growing engineers and having some less serious discussions about technical topics family and friends back home would never understand. 3 weeks to go. Our new plate for the powered ground effect is ready. The system that is probably the most frequently mentioned part on our car. At the same time, we had almost zero validation data on it, almost no empirical values. And how do we validate our simulation? So we validate ourselves. We build a test rig with scales and a wooden floor around it so we can simulate the ceiling. And then we're surprised that Mythen easily lifts more than 200 kilograms of wooden floor just by suction. In case you are wondering what it looks like to push such a car around, even with just a fraction of its power, I struggled really hard. Ben mentioned cleaning before, but you can clean as much as you want. Our powered ground effect system cleans better. A lot of dirt and dust in the air, in the end, on our car. "12 days to go. Another week of testing goes by, and this is what our summer 2023 looks like. During the week, testing in the evening. Weekends are spent in our workshop in Dübendorf. Remember, we are all full-time working or students learning, or should be, for upcoming exams. So next to all the challenges we face with our car, human resources is another one. But how do you stay focused all the time? When do you have your car ready, or do you even manage to have your car ready on its peak performance on your attempt day? There are a lot of factors playing a big role, but I think one big and one crucial factor is that you commit. You commit to a goal and to a date. And if you do, there is no such thing than doing things in halves. It's all in. So less than a week to go until September 1st, our self-imposed target attempt day. The launch you are going to see in the next video is one of the moments where we realized, okay, something big is coming up. Quick note, don't blink. The car accelerates in the first 2 meters from 0 to 40. So, all in all, a very rewarding testing day and a good start into the final week. But as you can see in the picture, even if it looks nice, there are some things beyond our influence. The weather, for example. Story of our life or of the final week. We want to test. It starts raining, so car back in. It stops raining, we bring our car outside, car is broken, back in the workshop, fix it. As soon as you're done fixing, you bring your car outside and it starts raining again. At least there is hope for the end of the week. So, despite the circumstances, we do everything humanly possible to get a dry tarmac. Brooms, paper, towels, tire blankets, flamethrowers. As soon as we see a small possibility to test, we come together from across Switzerland to test. And it pays off. 5 days before attempt day, Mythen does its first launch from 0 to 100 in 1.475 seconds. Just a blink of an eye slower than the current world record. But, as it is known in Formula Student, don't celebrate too early. Job is not done yet. We are going through stressful days, a lot of organizational stuff to clarify a car that has to be tuned to its absolute maximum, and technical issues. Our first bigger setback just days before the attempt day. The powertrain doesn't work anymore. But as a team, you keep fighting. We committed to the 1st of September, and everyone is working day and night in the workshop just to get the car running again. Also, still a lot of organizational stuff and a lot of informations to distribute among the team. 2 days left. The day before attempt day, Mythen unofficially breaks the world record for the very first time. A time of 1.28 seconds. A good testing day follows, and from now on we know we are ready. Stuttgart, put on your warm clothes. September 1st, 2023. Showing up at 7 a.m. in the workshop never felt easier. Tasks are distributed and every one of us knows exactly what has to be done. We are lucky. Just a few clouds in the sky, and for the afternoon, weather forecast predicts sunshine. In the next hours, guests from media and witnesses and experts arrive in Zurich. They get instructed about our time plan, about the procedure, and about safety measurements. Then, 9 a.m., our car is getting ready. Mechanical checks, electrical checks. You hear a buzzer sound. Rolling to the start line. The noise of the cooling fans soon gets overpowered by the powered ground system. Suspension compresses. Flag and launch. All the pressure we felt, all the work we put in, everything released within a second, resulting in an unforgettable moment of pure joy when the delegated of our timing sensor confirmed our time of 1.123 seconds. Mythen writes history. But we don't stop here. The closer we get to the 1 second barrier, the less we want to stop, the more we want to break it. Increasing torque in the motors, increasing downforce, try to get as much weight of the car as possible. We're almost there. It's already afternoon, and we did it. In our 9th run of today, Mythen clocks at 0.956 seconds. It is broken, the 1 second barrier. Not that it would have been just a lucky shot. We did it twice. We did it a third time. So the sun sets and the track is cooling down. At some point you have to stop. Quick look on the stats of today. 12.2 meters, a number easily to be visualized also for, let's say, non-technical friends. 12 meters is not that much of a distance. 155 of peak power consumption, kilowatts. Almost 4G of acceleration. That's 4 times as much as if you would throw Mythen from a roof. Even for the next onboard video, a quick reminder again, don't blink.
Unlike in racing, there's 2 halves when you're doing a record. On one side, you have to do the deed itself, the technical challenge, and certify it. But then there's the other side, which is how you're going to show it to everyone. When you're doing a world record, it's also a matter of communicating what you're doing to the public. A big part of how you do this is choosing what your communication strategy is going to be. And our choice was to keep the project completely confidential, secret, within our workshop until we had the certification. We didn't want to put it out there until this happened. So our plan was to work together with our universities, prepare a press release beforehand until we would have the certification, and then we would start our PR campaign about the record that we had broken. But a couple days before we attempted to do the record, we got some news. And the news were that our university had talked to national TV in Switzerland, and they were very interested in what we were doing. So they wanted to come and film it, and not only to also be witnesses to what we were doing, but also put it on the news that same evening. Of course, that was a bit of a shake-up to everything that we wanted to do in terms of keeping it for a big boom that we wanted to do later on. But it was a great opportunity because we could show to all of Switzerland what we're doing ourselves, our association with our cars, but also put a good image of the university, which at the end of the day, they are our most important sponsors. So of course, we agreed with them and we worked them into our schedule for the attempt day, which again was an extra challenge that we put on top. But it was very successful because, of course, we broke the record that same day, so the news could go out. The downside was that the news started leaking, so many of you may have seen it on Reddit some days before we officially said it, that there was probably AMZ had broken the world record. And then ourselves, we didn't say anything, we just waited. We waited for 11 days, and it was very hard because we didn't get any feedback. We didn't know if we had done everything correctly. We would get calls from our sponsors, from the witnesses, from our guests that had seen it. Everybody was wondering if it had worked. And all you get is an email saying, yes, you have it. And for us, that was a crazy moment because it was the moment to really put into action our plan, which was to put a press release together with the university. But even then, we didn't really understand the impact that this would have because our university sent this to Reuters. And Reuters is a media agency that is the primary source to many media outlets all over the world. And when they did that, basically what that meant is that every newspaper and online website that is about news would have immediate access to this. And what happened is that over the next hours, everybody started talking about this. We would just Google ourselves and come with article after article after article, everybody talking about the same story, which was mind-blowing to us. Some outlets were just copying the same story and putting it out there, but some went so far to really investigate a bit about the whole story of this record and how it came to this point, and really put some very nice stories out there. Even on the printed press, especially locally in Switzerland, we had some impact. In small regions in Switzerland, it was very interesting for them to call the team members that came from that same region as kind of like a local hero for them to tell their own story, which was also very nice for them. And finally, maybe the top of this wave was when Time magazine named us one of the best inventions of 2023. At this point, we realized that we were in the spotlight in a way that we really couldn't imagine beforehand. And we had to use it. It was a unique opportunity. You know how hard it is to be recognized in a project that is so niche as Formula Student, to really get some recognition from the general public. So this is what we did, is try to use this moment to really put a message out there. And what we did is reach out to some people. Some people also reached out to us, and then we made a bit of a plan on what we would put together, and now we're going to see a bit the highlights of the things that we could do after we broke the world record. This first video is a collaboration that we did with Driver61, a YouTuber that you may know because he talks about motorsport and has quite a big following. The video that he did about this world record car had 2 million views. And it's a very nice video because he talks about a lot of technical aspects and he explains very well how the whole car works. But the most important part, in my opinion, is that he talked about Formula Student, and what you're going to see is 1 minute when he describes what Formula Student is for people that like motorsports. And it was so nice, this experience also for him, that the summer after he went to Formula Student UK and he did a whole video about this competition, which was also a very nice portray of our competition.
If you didn't know, Formula Student is fantastic, where university students from around the world design, build, test and race a Formula-style racing car. The aim is to give students experience in practical engineering, as well as teamwork and project management. And it's many of these students who end up working in Formula One. So AMZ Racing used the base of a Formula Student car, as it's light, has a small frontal area, which is good for low drag, and they also had one available.
The most successful video that we filmed in that time was also the first that we did, which was right after the world record. Working with Tom Scott, which I hope many of you know, was a dream come true for many of us. It was all single shot because he really wanted to have an authentic experience of learning all the safety first and then sitting in the car and just get one shot at the 0 to 100 kilometers per hour. The video was quite successful. He ended up getting 4.4 million views. It was an amazing experience for the whole team. It was also a learning experience because he's an excellent communicator, so we learned a lot about communication and film production that obviously we applied further on.
0 to 100 kilometers per hour is the standard test for how fast a car accelerates. The Brits call it 0 to 60 miles an hour. An everyday road car with a bit of power can do that in 6 or 7 seconds. A Formula One car, about 2 seconds. As I record this, the fastest accelerating road-legal car in the world is the Rimac Nevera, which can go from 0 to 100 kilometers per hour in 1.85 seconds. This is Mythen, built by a team from ETH Zurich, a Swiss university, and it hits 100 kilometers per hour in under a second.
This video was so successful that the German TV program asked us to do it all over again, but in German this time. So we got Galileo to come to our workshop and put one of their journalists also through the same process, which I can guarantee is not very comfortable because I've tried myself and it's not that as nice as it looks on video. Not only this, we also got a visit from Servus TV, a TV program from Austria, that also came to the workshop to really see with their own eyes this car, and also the YouTuber Breaking Lap, which also did a very nice video. All those were great experiences, and in our opinion, it was a great success every time. Maybe the most fun part for us was reading all the comments that were in all those videos and all the other media presence that we got in that time. Those comments were completely unfiltered, coming from the general public, so sometimes you really wonder if they understand what we're doing or not. But in my opinion, the best part is that they give out some great ideas for how we could name our next cars, so pick your best. My favorite are a bathtub turned into a missile, violent teleportation, and special relativity. At the end, we really got the chance to put a message out there and really show Formula Student to the general public. And it was very important for us that given parties really received the right message and understood what we were trying to say once that we had this opportunity. First, to the universities, which are very important to all the teams, we wanted to show them maybe in a different way what they have seen in their own workshops and classrooms, what Formula Student is, and also to motivate them to support the projects that they have in their own universities, and also to give them the freedom to operate and to build their cars. Second, to the industry, we wanted to show what young engineers can do and what they can learn in projects like this, and also that they can give us their products, and we're going to do really cool things with them. So it's worth supporting those people. And I think also it was very important to show the general public what we're doing nowadays in engineering universities, that we can do very interesting things, and hopefully that also motivates some people to pick up engineering. And then finally, we wanted to send a message also to the Formula Student community, and today we want to reiterate that message. And that message is thank you. Because every year we share the competitions, we share the rivalry, we share the sense of community from September to September, and we share the same ambitions. And this is only possible with every team that comes and participates. And this spirit that we have felt while we've been racing with all of you is the same spirit that we felt when wanting to take this challenge. It was really the Formula Student ambition, all these same feelings that we had in all those summers racing. It was the same that we wanted to emulate once more after we had graduated. So we hope that with this fit, we gave back a bit of this motivation that you guys gave us, and hopefully that also inspires some of you to give us the next challenge. So thank you very much for that.
Wow. Guys, thank you so much for this great presentation. Thank you for sharing, if I counted correctly, 11 attempts on this day, right? To get to the, I mean, you did it over the entire day, but it was 11 attempts, okay. That is amazing. And I have one question just out of curiosity. You mentioned something that your under tray and the power ground effect is a very good cleaner of the road. So actually we need to clean the endurance track on Sunday. Can we borrow it? Okay, no, jokes aside. I took a lot of notes. So let me have a couple of questions. The first one, maybe just out of curiosity. You went through the whole process. You modified the car heavily. If you would have a glass ball right now, do you think there's a lot more room to improve? Okay, I want to hear from them. So, and if so, what do you think would be areas where there's still potential? I mean, we're now talking like a sub 1 second, so there's probably like not like 0.4 seconds left anymore. That's for sure. But what do you think would it be?
Well, I think if we look a little bit into the world of acceleration, I mean, for electric cars, this is the pinnacle of what is possible at the moment. But there's, of course, all of these crazy people who do top fuel dragsters. And their 0 to 100 times are roughly, I think, 0.4 seconds. So there's still a bit of margin until we get there. But all jokes aside, those cars, they run for 2 seconds and they need a complete engine rebuild afterwards. So there's also something that is to be said about that, our car, as we said, ran 11 times in one day, and we could probably have done a few more runs, but we just ran out of sunlight, unfortunately. I would argue at this point in time, it is unfortunately, as our friends in Stuttgart did in 2022, not possible anymore to do it without a heavily modified Formula Student car. I think we just with Mythen went that one step further. As you said, we did a full rebuild. It has a powertrain that has considerably more power than you would ever need in normal Formula Student season. So really, you need to take that step above. At one point in time, you probably also need to start thinking about, do I redesign the chassis? Is this an optimal chassis for what we're actually doing? Mythen probably in its current situation still has a bit of time left, but there we're talking not 0.4 seconds. So if you really want to take it that far, yes, that is a full rebuild. The concepts probably work, I think, for much quicker acceleration still, so I don't think you would need to change much in concepts, but just take everything one level above to the next extreme that we haven't taken it yet to.
Okay, cool, thank you. So I just came out of engineering design presentation today. And so one of the questions that judges usually ask is, so tell me the one thing that you modified you think had the biggest impact. If you actually can nail it down to one thing. But like considering everything they did, like removing wings, rebuilding the powertrain, power ground effect, all the stuff, what do you think was the biggest difference? Because I'm pretty sure there's many other teams out there who think like, maybe I can build a car that goes at least like, I don't know, a sub 1.5 or so.
Well, it was definitely the floor. I mean, that's the main difference between those two cars. That really made a difference, that you completely change how you're going to control your powertrain, because you really gain a big amount of grip. So it really changes everything, but it also changes how you're going to set up the rest of the car, because now you don't have the same room for the suspension to move, because you have to bring it down and seal the floor. But if it moves too much down, it's going to touch the ground. So you're operating with very thin margins, and how you think about working with the whole car is way different.
Yeah, definitely the short clip that you showed where the car was waiting, you turn on the power ground effect, and it just says, boop. It's just amazing.
I mean, short interjection there. I think we ran with 200 kilograms of downforce. Yeah. That was not because we couldn't run more. We just were afraid that we would break our suspension.
Yeah, I can totally imagine that. Tell us a little bit more about your relationship with the active team. Because, I mean, you said that you're partly still a student, partly already working, so an alumni group. I suppose that you probably went through the same infrastructure. You use most of what the team is using, like workshop and everything else. Maybe you can share a little bit more about how you work together with the active team, how you share resources.
So I think the most important thing was that the active project is not going to be disturbed by the world record project. In the end, I think it was a win-win situation for every one of us. We can profit of the infrastructure in the workshop. For them, we had a lot of talks about questions. Why do you build a car with 4 wheels? And all those technical topics, I think, and this knowledge transfer that happens in the workshop only happens if you show up. And with such a project, you show up in the workshop. And yeah, I would say it was a win-win. We also had a pizza bet. We sadly lost. So for the first car who drives 0 to 100, I think they managed to beat us by about 2 months or somewhat. Congratulations to that. It was a very nice experience to share the workshop that time.
Okay, thank you. Then maybe one question regarding safety. I mean, we all build the cars and we have the rule set. Was there anything, or if you can pick like a rule that is like used to what every Formula Student team has to follow, that was not, or let's say it this way, that was in the way of getting to this like amazing time. Can you explain a bit more about your safety concept and what you did there?
So about safety, to be honest, we didn't change anything. Like the safety circuit is basically copy-paste from Formula Student. What we changed, or what would not be in the regulations, would be the maximum power output, obviously. And also we can't drive in rain because the car is not waterproof at all, which was also difficult for testing, as you saw before. But safety-wise, it would get the scrutineering sticker, I guess.
Okay, and I think this is a very important message to everyone else who tries to attempt something like this. I mean, safety measures are in place for a very good reason, and no matter what you do, if you just build the car to compete in any of these competitions, or you want to build a world record car, safety is critical, and it's very important that you follow this. So that's a good, in my opinion, it's a very good strategy. Do not risk anyone. Okay, so what other questions do I have? Oh yeah, you talked about the road, so you can go either in both directions, or you pick a road that is slightly uphill. The question would be, what is the definition of slightly uphill, and what does was there any word about wind? Like, as wind speed might have a big influence. I mean, we know that from Formula 1 that drivers sometimes complain about missing a turn because the wind was like coming from the back and, you know, they didn't feel it. Was there any influence about the wind? So can I wait for a hurricane and just go?
In theory, yes. There's no rules about that, although maybe we should motivate Guinness to add something about the wind next time. So the limit for being uphill, it has to be at least 0.1% of uphill slope. So that was, we measured the exact spot where it was above 0.1 plus a bit of tolerance to make sure that we really got that. And in case like we're slightly off in terms of moving a bit diagonally, to make sure that we fulfill the rules. The wind topic came up on the attempt day. The witnesses were wondering the same question. And because we were testing in next to an airfield, we had a control tower with a weather station there. And they called, they told us after. We called them and we got the weather forecast, and we saw that the wind is actually blowing against you. So we're not going to write anything about that. So that was quite nice that it worked in our favor.
Okay, very good. All right, time's up. Again, thank you very much for making this presentation. First of all, also having this friendly competition with the Formula Student world out there. It's just another great showcasing of our technology that we develop here, that students develop, and what the capabilities are. So I really love that. Again, thank you so much for making the presentation. And with that, we'll close for tonight. So thank you, everyone. Thank you. Good night.